Well, there we go. In the 9 o'clock service, it was magnificently read by Linda. And we just didn't think we could do all the big words and the long names, so that's our version. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. I'm a little bit exhausted now. And I've been asked to do the talk today. It's going to be nice and short. We're aiming to keep the service short. You've had doodling sheets, you've got talk note sheets, I think there's word searches, colouring. There's things to think about, to go home with, maybe talk about the story with your family, where you fit in the story. But hopefully what I'm going to say now will maybe help you think a little bit more deeper into it or outside the box. I was really fortunate at uni a few years ago. We had to do a module on leadership, and we had to pick 3 leaders from now and 3 leaders from the Bible. And I chose all women, and one of my women from the Bible was Deborah. So I've dug a little bit into her life, and she's pretty awesome. But there is more to her than just the leadership as well, but I'm hoping I can connect a bit more of that now. Now, I read a really funny story about a couple who had just got married. They were trying to figure out their various roles, and so the wife told her new husband that it was his job to make the tea in the morning. And the husband wasn't keen and wanted to negotiate. His wife was so persistent, which of course we generally are, and told him that this job role was written in the Bible. The husband looked at his Bible and told her he didn't think it was a biblical command. So she went to get her Bible, opened it up to a book that settled the issue, Hebrews. Oh, that's my Disney Pixar part. Okay, so the Bible itself is filled with godly examples of men and women who minister with various roles and responsibilities. And today we'll learn how a she-brew named Deborah exhibited the power of an obeying woman. And the book of Judges chronicles a very tough time in the history of Israel. In Judges 2, verse 18 and 19, it summarizes the spiritual situation, saying, whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with the judge and saved them out of the hands of their enemies, as long as the judges lived. But when the judge died, the people returned to ways even more corrupt than those of their fathers. Now, the very last phrase in this book gives us an insight into why things were going south for them. It said, everyone did as he saw fit. And that's in verse 25 of chapter 21. And because of that, we read of God's people cycling through a period of rebellion, which Andy was trying to do with narrate, which led to retribution from God. After suffering for some time, they would eventually repent and then be restored to a time of rest and peace. But then they begin the process all over again. Now, do you see yourself in this cycle? I know I do a lot of the time. And actually, I think Deborah did. Now, sometimes when our lives are too comfortable, we start to coast. And this story is clearly about 2 women, one who used her head and her heart, and the other one who used her hands and a hammer. And in the story, Barak and Sisera played much smaller roles. So do what God calls you to do is a good thing. And God is already actually where he is pointing you to go. So even though we may be thinking about doing it, he's there. And I think a lot about when we serve. I know you see me here as a paid member of staff, but I do serve in other areas and have done for many years before I started working here. And at one point in my life, about 6 years ago now, my mum passed away suddenly. We had no idea this was going to happen. And I was very blessed to have Andy and Tom and my husband around me and just to talk everything through. But actually, I was talking the most to God. I felt the closest to God I'd ever been in that time of grief. And I know for some people it doesn't work like that. I mean, we're all different. We're all unique and wonderful. Again, I was reminded of that yesterday by Sandy. We had our first Bible journaling session and we looked at Psalm 139. And it is remembering and respecting each other that we're different and we're unique. But God made us. He goes before us. And in that moment of grief, I could hear God. I could see what he was saying to me. A lorry went by when my father and I were driving up to, because my mum passed away in Scotland and we had to drive up to sort all the arrangements out. And a lorry went by with her maiden name slapped all the way across it. While we were up there, we had different appointments. And we thought we were going to be up there for weeks. But each appointment happened straight away. So we arrived a day early. We were still able to go and get the death certificate. We were able to talk to, we even spoke to the people in the morgue, and we spoke to everyone, and they were just amazing. But God had gone before us, preparing the way, making a really difficult time smooth, and we were listening to him. We went to see Mum, and when we came out of the funeral directors, we were driving along the road again in the middle of Dumfries, and a car was in front of us with her name on. I mean, and this was unique all the way through. We were there 5 days instead of 2 weeks. And we came home with Mum's ashes. And that was me just, I just listened to God. I put my faith in him. But it strengthened me so much more. And my point of this testimony was I was serving 5 days after Mum passed away. We had 7 young people being baptized. And a few of them had asked me to be with them. And I was here. And this is where I wanted to be, with my church family, with God. And God just works amazingly. So open your heart to him, even in the most difficult times. Deborah did, and we can. Now, Deborah, she was a wife and a mother, a judge and a prophet. I mean, a lot of women can relate to some of these things. We do a lot of jobs. But she fulfilled her calling to her family first, and then made herself available to help other people. And she helped them live in peace with one another. And when God had a message he wanted to communicate, she willingly spoke up. She trusted him. When God revealed a task for her, she took him at his word and obeyed. Now, what is God calling you to do right now? And that's everyone, young and old. And can we all find a Deborah in our lives to learn from? So thank you. You going to pray?
So, Father, as the band comes up That's your